My favorite type of tennis to watch on the ATP Tour is clay court tennis. And many people don't realize that the clay court season is actually quite long. It goes from February all the way to Umag, which is right before the US Open. So the clay court season is very long, but unfortunately, the actual clay court season with the important tournaments, the Masters and the Grand Slam, is quite short. And my wish would be that there would be more important tournaments on clay. Why do I like clay? Because it shows a different game style. There's much more tactical adjustments than players can make. I got a great video coming up very shortly on the Intuitive Tennis YouTube channel about hard court and clay court tactics. And it turns out that there are far more tactical adjustments that you can make on a clay court. And for that reason, I enjoy watching clay court tennis very much. And some of my all-time favorite players were clay court specialists. Now, you guys have heard this many times, but I'm a hardcore Rafael Nadal fan. And my second favorite player on clay currently is Carlos Alcaraz. And when I saw him enter the South American clay court swing prior to Indian Wells in Miami, I was very happy because I do think it's an important step for him. He can be the next dominant player on clay. And why is that? Because he's got everything that you need to be successful on clay. He's a phenomenal mover. He's an incredible defender. He has one of the greatest forehands in the history of tennis. He has a tremendous amount of variety in his game. He can slice, he can drop shot, he can also come to the net and finish points off with his volleys. And watching Alcaraz over the last couple of years, I thought that he was going to be close to unbeatable when he's at his top level on clay. When he beat Djokovic and Nadal back-to-back in Madrid, that was incredible. But to me, what stood out was how he won Barcelona last year, where he absolutely outclassed everybody. That very much reminded me of how Rafa used to win some of those tournaments. And Alcaraz, being from Spain and being extremely familiar with the clay court service, is the absolute perfect scenario for a replacement for the great Rafael Nadal. So I was very excited to see how Alcaraz was going to do at the 250 in Buenos Aires. And he had some patchy matches on his way to the semifinals. He didn't play his absolute best tennis. He did win in straight sets. And in the semis, he faced the closest thing you'll ever see to Juan Martín del Potro, which is Nicolas Jarry. This is a tall guy, 1.98 meters, with a humongous serve and a humongous forehand, and his backhand is pretty good too. And just like many of the tall guys nowadays on tour, the guy is also an exceptional mover. Now, we all know that Alcaraz has had some struggles with confidence as of late. He has not won a tournament since Wimbledon. He has not been in a final since Cincinnati. But despite that, I really thought that Alcaraz was going to figure out how to beat Jarry, especially on clay. But it didn't turn out quite that way. Alcaraz started playing pretty solid tennis. He was up 5-4, love 30 on Jarry's serve. And at that moment in time, it looked like Alcaraz was going to cruise and win in straight sets. But Jarry started playing some spectacular tennis. See, what was happening yesterday with Alcaraz was that he was standing extremely far back on the return, and Jarry took advantage of that by coming in a lot, sometimes even off his serve. And he did a ton of successful drop shots. But it was not only that, he was dominating Alcaraz from the baseline. It seemed like Alcaraz couldn't get the upper hand in the rallies, especially when Jarry was serving. Jarry was blasting shots Del Potro style, and Alcaraz was on the defense. So both guys ended up holding serve and got into a tiebreak, and Alcaraz did not play a good tiebreak. He lost it 7-2, making a lot of unforced errors. Now in the second set, Alcaraz came out on fire, broke in the first game, and I thought, okay, you know what? He's going to shake this tiebreak off. He's going to end up winning this match in 3, but then he lost his serve right away. And again, Jarry had the upper hand in the rallies. He was the more aggressive player, and Alcaraz had to rely on his spectacular defense, and his defense is spectacular. He ran down a let court at 3-all in the second set. Like, I can't even believe that he got to that ball. He was way behind the baseline. Jarry hit a drop shot that hit the let court, and Alcaraz not only got to that ball, but he ended up hitting a very tricky lob and won the point. So this guy's defensive skills are off the charts, but it unfortunately wasn't enough because Jarry was playing too aggressive, too strong, and ended up breaking Alcaraz, going up 5-3, and this is where these guys played maybe the most entertaining game of the whole match. Alcaraz saved some match points. He hit a clutch defensive topspin lob where the crowd went crazy, and unfortunately Alcaraz did one of these moves where he put his ear against the crowd. And again, I don't understand why players do this. Look, I'm not familiar with the dynamics of a Chilean playing in Argentina. Maybe you guys can enlighten me in the comments, but the crowd was extremely against Jarry, and they were hardcore cheering for Alcaraz throughout the whole match. So I do not understand this whole ear thing that the players do, especially when the crowd is already cheering for you. But in any case, Alcaraz's incredible defense wasn't enough because Jarry just played too aggressive, too good. He ended up holding serve in that game by hitting some incredibly hard inside-out forehands, very reminiscent of Del Potro, and he won the match 7-6, 6-3. So what do we take out of this for Alcaraz? I don't think he's far from starting to play like he did early last year. He's missing a few points here and there. I do think that if he wins that first set after being up 5-4, love 30 on Jarry's serve, this could easily be a straight set victory. And today he could have beat Facundo Diaz Acosta pretty comfortably. That's how tennis goes, is a few points here and there that decide a match. So of course, after he lost in the semis, social media again was bashing this kid when they were pumping him up a year ago after Wimbledon, saying that he's going to win 30 slams, and now he's overrated, he's overhyped, and he's no good. So in my opinion, the reason why Alcaraz right now is not winning titles like he did last year or 2 years ago is mostly confidence. But there could be some other factors at play, and players have to continuously get better in order to stay at the top. If you take a look at Sinner, Sinner is on absolute fire right now, and I'm going to talk about him tomorrow in my Monday morning rant. But Sinner has improved his ground strokes, his movement, and most importantly, his serve. He doesn't make as many mistakes as he used to make. Alcaraz, on the other hand, is making more mistakes than he used to make. Of course, some of this can be due to a lack of confidence, but when I look at Alcaraz's backhand from a technical standpoint, while Alcaraz is an unbelievable athlete, maybe one of the best athletes we've ever seen on a tennis court, he can defend on his backhand side extremely well. A la Djokovic, he can return really well off his backhand side. To me, it looks like he's muscling the ball. And I know it works. Look, the guy won Wimbledon and the US Open, was ranked #1 in the world. His backhand works. But when I compare it to, for example, Sinner or Djokovic or Zverev, and we saw the backhand exchanges between Zverev and Alcaraz at the Australian Open in the quarterfinals, and you can clearly see that Zverev has a much cleaner, much better backhand than Alcaraz. And that is due to the technique. In the match against Jarry yesterday, there were countless backhands where Alcaraz didn't finish them. He just muscles the ball and he gets stuck somewhere around here. Now, of course, this can work, especially on defense, but I would like to see a fuller stroke. I don't understand his backhand at times where it's extremely short in the back and it's extremely short on the finish. It's not a full swing, and he does make quite a few mistakes off that backhand side. So what I think is happening with a lot of players is that they go hard to Alcaraz's backhand, and they know that he might give him some mistakes here and there. And while his serve is great, and I see Alcaraz more of a spot server, he does at times miss a lot of first serves. His percentage can dip in the low 50s. So there's another area of his game where he can do a little bit better. I'm currently analyzing his serve. I'm going to make a full video on the Alcaraz serve. So something that Sinner has done last year was improve his shot selection from the baseline, tinker with his serve and find what works best for him. I do think that in addition to Alcaraz getting his confidence back and starting to win some tournaments, he also has to improve his technique in order to maximize his potential and be the player that everybody expects him to be.